Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the first episode of our web series Safar-e-Hifazat, a journey towards safety. Uh, it's a research-based web series in which we will be exploring the importance of imparting life skill-based education to adolescents in order to improve their capabilities to make informed choices about their health, well-being and safety. This web series is part of the project called Safar-e-Hifazat. It's a research-based project that delivered life skill-based education curriculum to adolescents, both boys and girls, in government schools in Lahore. This is a project of Amplify Change and Nur Foundation. Nur Center for Research and Policy is endowed by Nur Foundation based in Lahore, Pakistan, and is the technical research arm of Nur Fatma Memorial System. NCRP, as we all call it, has multifaceted projects and programs to generate, collate, and disseminate evidence for strengthening policy making and planning, as well as reforming practice in the sectors of health, education, and integrated community development. This entire series is about life skill based education, the importance of life skill based education, the evidence generated by the project conducted by Noor Foundation, and we will be inviting a number of experts to our series, and we will be discussing various aspects of life skill based education during the entire set of this sixth series of programs. So today is our first episode, and the first episode, what we would like to explore is the long term structural reforms needed in Pakistan. And we will be exploring this in the context of life skill based education. We are very lucky to have with us very prominent panelists today. First of all, we have Aisha Ijaz. Aisha has been working at Aaahung since 2008 and is currently the program director, where she oversees the entire team in the development and management of all programs and projects. She has a BA in English Literature from Tufts University, MSc in Social Policy and Development from the London School of Economics and Political Science. Aisha has over 15 years experience in NGO programming on intimate partner violence in the USA and sexual reproductive health and rights in Pakistan. Her areas of interest and expertise include development and managing SRHR program for young people and closely advocating with the various provincial education departments in Pakistan for the integration of life skill based education in their education curricula. Aisha is based in Karachi, and uh, we would really like to learn from her Sindh experience, because in the context of including life skill based education in the curriculum, Sindh is a little ahead of the other provinces because it has to some extent integrated life skill based education in their curriculum. Thank you very much, Aisha, for joining us. We have Sana Kazmi. Sana is currently head of the special programs and advocacy at Zindagi Trust. For the last 10 years, she has been working to bring change to Pakistan's government school system by establishing programs in the arts, counseling, activism, summer camps, and fellowship, as well as advocating for child protection and improved school governance. In the past, she has worked as a political advocacy consultant for Alif Elan, a national education campaign. Thank you very much, Sana, for joining us. We will be asking her a number of questions about how we can improve the education system, because she works very closely with that. We also have with us Saman Tariq. Saman Tariq is behind the spirit behind the whole project that Noor Foundation was conducting. Uh, Saman is a communication specialist. She's currently working at Noor Center for Research and Policy. Uh, as manager communication manager project Safar-e-Hifazat to empower adolescents and for their right to lead an informed, healthy, protected and safe life. Her focus areas include youth leadership, community mobilization and human rights. If the other panelists allow, before we get into the debate and today's topic of the structural reforms required and needed, uh, we would like Saman to brief us about the project that they conducted and some of the successes that you have experienced while implementing this project, and also to tell us why do you think it's a good idea to have this replicated everywhere else. Saman, over to you.
Thank you, Nabila. So basically, Project Safar-e-Hifazat it was a project of Nur Center for Research and Policy, where we provided a life skills based education to government schools in Lahore. और इसमें life skills में we informed them about their health, their protection, the changes that occur during puberty, and also things like decision making, confidence building, self esteem, self awareness. In सब पे हमने through a curriculum which was a modified version of Aaahung's curriculum जो हमने schools में implement किया, और हमने training कराई teachers की और हमारे फातिमा मेमोरियल के health care providers की, जिन्होंने ये curriculum implement किया in schools. और उसमें हमने फिर डिफरेंस देखा. हमने जब ये करिकुलम इम्प्लीमेंट किया और बच्चों को इन बारे में बताया, इन टॉपिक्स के बारे में बताया, जिसको हम लाइफ स्किल्स बेस्ड एजुकेशन कहते हैं. और ये एडोलेसेंट्स को हमने 13 से 14 साल का एवरेज एज ग्रुप था हमारे पास, उनको हमने पढ़ाया. तो हमने रिसर्च पर्सपेक्टिव से हमने एक बेसलाइन सर्वे किया ये प्रोजेक्ट इम्प्लीमेंट करने से पहले, और उसके बाद हमने एक एंडलाइन सर्वे किया इस प्रोजेक्ट का इम्प्लीमेंट करिकुलम पढ़ाने के बाद. और हमने डिफरेंस देखा कि क्या डिफरेंस था उनके नॉलेज, एटीट्यूड और प्रैक्टिस में LSB पढ़ने से पहले और LSB पढ़ने के बाद. तो इस प्रोजेक्ट का मकसद ये था कि मैं पहले उसकी बात कर लूं कि ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था. वो ये था कि सिंध जिस तरह आपने कहा, सिंध थोड़ा सा आगे है पंजाब में, और ऑलरेडी लाइफ स्किल्स बेस्ड एजुकेशन वहाँ पे करिकुलम ये पढ़ाया जा रहा है. लेकिन पंजाब में अभी तक अनफॉर्चुनेटली ये इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हो सका. और गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में ये पायलट टेस्ट करने का मॉडल, ये मकसद हमारा ये था कि हम एविडेंस जनरेट कर सकें कि ये हमने आपके गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में इन बच्चों को पढ़ाया, ये इनका प्री एग्जिस्टिंग नॉलेज था. जब हमने इनको इन टॉपिक्स के बारे में बताया तो उसके बाद इनका जो नॉलेज है उसमें ये चेंज आया है, नॉलेज में, एटीट्यूड में, प्रैक्टिस में. जब हमने वहाँ बेसलाइन सर्वे किया तो बहुत से परेशान कुन गैप्स हमने देखे, जो कि उनकी हेल्थ के हवाले से, उनकी प्रोटेक्शन के हवाले से, थिंग्स एज सिंपल एज फीलिंग्स एंड इमोशंस, उनके हवाले से 58% एडोलेसेंट्स को लगता था कि फीलिंग्स और इमोशंस को एक्सपीरियंस करना नॉर्मल नहीं है. ठीक है. और ये हमने जो बेसलाइन सर्वे हमने 1125 रिस्पॉन्डेंट्स के साथ रन किया. इसी तरह 78 रिस्पॉन्डेंट्स ने ये कहा कि जब उनको गुस्सा आता है तो वो या तो चुप कर जाते हैं या वो कुछ नहीं करते इस बारे में. तो ये दिस इज जस्ट वन स्मॉल एग्जाम्पल कि हम बच्चों को ना इमोशनल रेगुलेशन सिखा रहे हैं, ना हम उनको सिखा रहे हैं कि फीलिंग्स को एक्सपीरियंस करना नॉर्मल है. तो ये आगे जाके किस किस्म के मेंटल हेल्थ एंड फिजिकल हेल्थ इश्यूज में ये चीजें आगे जाके एस्केलेट कर सकती हैं. इसी तरह बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक जो प्यूबर्टी का था, जब हम उस पर बात करते हैं तो जब बेसलाइन सर्वे हमने किया तो हमने देखा कि 60% गर्ल्स का ये मानना था when they're menstruating उनको they shouldn't shower. और उसमें जब हम प्रैक्टिस पे आते हैं तो सिर्फ 27% लड़कियां उन्होंने कहा कि वो माहवारी के दिनों में नहाती. So these are some ऐसे बहुत से गैप्स हमने आइडेंटिफाई किए जो कि हमने अपने बेसलाइन सर्वे में देखे. लेकिन जब हम सक्सेसेस की तरफ आते हैं, जब हमने ये प्रोजेक्ट इम्प्लीमेंट किया, हमने आहंग का करिकुलम वहाँ पे मॉडिफाइड वर्जन وہ پڑھایا اور ہم نے ٹریننگ کروائی ٹیچرس کی, ہیلتھ کیئر پرووائڈرس کی. تو اینڈ لائن میں کیا ریزلٹس تھے, اس سے ہم یہ دیکھ سکتے ہیں کہ صرف 4 مہینے میں, کووڈ کی وجہ سے ہم صرف 4 مہینے جو ہے کریکولم امپلیمنٹ کر سکے, لیکن صرف 4 مہینے میں اگر ہم نے ڈفرینس دیکھا ہے اپنی ریسرچ کے ذریعے, تو اگر یہ پورا سال کریکولم بچوں کو پڑھایا جائے تو کیا کچھ اس سے جو ہے وہ نہیں تبدیل ہو سکتا. تو اس میں جلدی سے تھوڑے سے آپ کے ساتھ اسٹیٹسٹکس شیئر کر دیتی ہوں. اس میں جو ہے بچوں کا جو ایڈولیسنس سے جو اسٹریٹجیز پریکٹس کرتے ہیں, اگر ان کے ساتھ کوئی برے طریقے سے ان کو چھوتا ہے, اس میں پرسنٹیج میں 22% امپروومنٹ آئی. بچوں نے کہا کہ ہم اب سے جو ہیں ہم طریقے استعمال کریں گے اس سے بچنے کے لیے. میں نے شاورنگ ڈیورنگ مینسٹریشن کی بات کی تو اس میں 67% کی امپروومنٹ آئی جسٹ ان 4 months. گرلز ہو بلیو دیٹ دے شوڈ شاور ڈیورنگ مینسٹریشن. اور جب ہم پریکٹس کی بات کرتے ہیں کہ کیا وہ شاور کرتی ہیں اور کریں گی, تو اس میں 45% کی امپروومنٹ آئی فرام بیس لائن ٹو اینڈ لائن. اسی طرح جو ہے فیلنگس کی بات کریں کہ ان کو ایکسپیرینس کرنا نارمل ہے یا نہیں, تو اس میں ہم نے 16% کی امپروومنٹ دیکھی کہ 16% بچوں کو یہ لگنا شروع ہو گیا کہ اچھا ٹھیک ہے, فیلنگس کو ایکسپیرینس کرنا جو ہے وہ نارمل ہے, اس میں کچھ اب نارمل نہیں ہے. اسی طرح بوائز کی اگر ہم بات کریں تو نوکٹرنل ڈریمز کے حوالے سے تو آپٹیمل ہائیجین جو ہے پریکٹسز اپنانے کی 29% امپروومنٹ آئی اس میں. اور گڈ ہیلتھ کے حوالے سے اگر بات کریں, اچھا بہت انٹرسٹنگ اس لیے بھی تھا کہ جو ہم نے ایشوز دیکھے کافی سوشل ایشوز ان سے ایسوسیٹڈ ہیں. تو جب ہم گڈ پریکٹسز کی بات کرتے ہیں فار گڈ ہیلتھ, تو بوائز میں جنرلی زیادہ اویئرنیس تھی ایون ڈیورنگ دیس ٹائم, اور گرلز جو ہیں انہوں نے کم رپورٹ کیا کہ وہ دے یوز اسٹریٹجیز ٹو امپروو دیئر ہیلتھ. کیونکہ جنرلی جب پیوبرٹی ہٹ کرتے ہیں گرلز تو ہم ان کو کنفائن کر دیتے ہیں کہ باہر نہیں جانا, گھر پہ بیٹھو, کھیلنا نہیں ہے. تو اس میں بھی ہم نے امپروومنٹ دیکھی کہ 22% گرلز جو ہیں انہوں نے رپورٹ کیا کہ انہوں نے اسٹریٹجیز یوز کرنی شروع کر دی ہیں فار مینٹیننگ گڈ ہیلتھ. اور اس کے علاوہ جو ہے حق مہر کا ایک کوشچن تھا, کیونکہ ہم سارے ایریاز کور کر رہے تھے, میرج بھی تھی, نکاح نامہ بھی تھا, اس طرح کے بھی اس میں ٹاپکس تھے. تو اس میں جو ہے 23% امپروومنٹ آئی ان لوگوں کی جو بلیو کرتے ہیں کہ حق مہر پہ صرف عورت کا حق ہوتا ہے. اس سے پہلے بچوں کو لگتا تھا کہ حق مہر پہ شاید سب کا حق ہوتا ہے, شاید فیملی کا حق ہوتا ہے, لیکن اس میں بھی ہم نے 22% امپروومنٹ دیکھی. تو یہ تو نبیلا وہ سکسیسز تھیں جو میجریبل تھیں, جن کو ہم نے اینڈ لائن سروے, بیس لائن سروے کے لیے دیکھا. پر اس سے بھی زیادہ تو نہیں, پر اتنی ہی زیادہ امپورٹنٹ وہ سکسیسز تھیں جن کو ہم ان نمبرز پروبیبلی میجر نہیں کر سکتے, لیکن وہ چینجز, وہ امپیکٹ جو فیسیلیٹیٹرز کی اسٹوڈنٹس کی لائف پہ ہوا پرسنلی اینڈ پروفیشنلی. جب ہم نے ان سے بات کی یہ کریکولم ختم ہونے کے بعد, تو ہم سے فیسیلیٹیٹرز نے شیئر کیا, ٹیچرز نے شیئر کیا کہ کیسے اب وہ زیادہ فرینڈلی طریقے سے بچوں سے ڈیل کرتے ہیں. پہلے ان کو لگتا تھا کہ اسکول میں پڑھا رہے ہیں تو ٹیچر جو ہے وہ ایک سخت ٹیچر ہی اچھا ہوتا ہے, تو انہوں نے دیکھا کہ نہیں, فرینڈلی طریقے سے بچوں کو پڑھائیں گے تو وہ بہتر سمجھیں گے. میل ٹیچرز نے, ایون فیمیل ٹیچرز نے رپورٹ کیا اپنی پرسنل لائف میں چینج, کہ جب وہ گھر میں اب جاتے ہیں تو دے ٹرائی ٹو پریکٹس جینڈر ایکوالٹی. وہ اپنے بچوں کو, بیٹیاں ہوں یا بیٹے ہوں, وہ سب کو کہتے ہیں کہ گھر کے کاموں میں ہاتھ بٹائیں. جو مرد حضرات تھے, ٹیچرز تھے, انہوں نے کہا ہم نے اپنی بیویوں کو جا کے کہا کہ آپ کو ہماری کوئی مدد چاہیے, آپ ہمیں بتائیں کہ ہم کیا کر سکتے ہیں گھر میں. اسی طرح جو ہمارے ڈاکٹرز تھے, انہوں نے رپورٹ کیا, ایک تو پرسنل لائف میں اگین مور جینڈر کی طرف فوکس سب کا آیا زیادہ. اور دوسرا جو بہت امپورٹنٹ بات تھی وہ یہ تھی کہ انہوں نے کہا کہ ایڈولیسنس سے جب ہم پہلے کمیونٹی میں ڈیل کرتے تھے तो हम उनकी सिम्टम्स देख के फिजिकल दवाइयाँ वगैरह दे देते थे। लेकिन जब अब हमारे पास पेशेंट्स आते हैं तो हम देखते हैं कि अगर बॉडी एक्स है, टांगों में दर्द है, मूड स्विंग्स है, तो हम उनको किस तरह से, कंसिडरिंग के प्यूबर्टी का टाइम है, इट्स एक खास किस्म का टाइम होता है बच्चों के लिए, तो वी अंडरस्टैंड कि वो किस दौर से गुजर रहे हैं, हम उस तरह उनकी काउंसलिंग भी करते हैं और उनका इलाज भी उस तरह करते हैं। अच्छा, उसके अलावा जब हमने पेरेंट्स से बात की तो वहां पे भी उन्होंने रिपोर्ट किया कि बच्चों की कम्युनिकेशन बेहतर हो गई है हमारे साथ एलएसबी पढ़ने के बाद। और स्टूडेंट्स से तो जब हमने उनसे फीडबैक लिया तो उन्होंने रिपोर्ट किया कि किस तरह दे मोर कॉन्फिडेंट। और इवन टीचर्स ने रिपोर्ट किया कि कुछ अब्यूजेस के केसेस थे जो रिलक्टेंट होते थे पहले बच्चे शेयर करने में, उन्होंने वो शेयर किए, अपनी प्रॉब्लम्स शेयर की। एंड ओवरऑल इम्पैक्ट जो है, आई थिंक वो पूरी पिक्चर हमें जो है वो रिसर्च के थ्रू एंड उनका जो फीडबैक था उसके थ्रू ओवरऑल इम्पैक्ट नजर आए।
थैंक यू समन, आपने बड़ा डिटेल में सारा वो कर दिया, एक नटशेल में बताया कि प्रोजेक्ट का क्या प्रोसेस है। आयशा, लेट मी टेक द बॉल टू यू। सिंध में काफी अरसे से ये एक्सपीरियंस कर रहे हैं आप लोग, यू आर इम्प्लीमेंटिंग लाइफ स्किल बेस्ड एजुकेशन थ्रू प्रॉपर एजुकेशन सेक्टर। Tell me, why do you still, if you are convinced that it is important for adolescent and children, why would you say that? Based it on your experience, is it similar to what Saman has just narrated, or is it somewhat different? Please
Yeah.
elaborate on this.
So thank you, Nabila. In terms of why I think life skills based education is important, I think first to answer that question, it's important to lay out the context around some of the reproductive health issues that are faced by children and adolescents in Pakistan. हमारी जो population है, we have a very young population. 63% of the population is under the age of 25. So just the sheer number of young people in Pakistan is staggering. And so we have to prioritize their reproductive health needs. अगर हम different issues को देखें, I'll quickly go through some of the really key ones. Child sexual abuse continues to be a widely recognized social crime in Pakistan, and approximately 15 to 25% of Pakistani children are impacted by this. But we do feel that this is just the tip of the iceberg because many cases go unreported. Similarly, जैसे Saman ने भी बात की around puberty and body changes, इसके ऊपर there is very little knowledge. Aaahung has conducted several studies and several baselines, and a recent baseline that we conducted with approximately 500 participants suggested that 93% of adolescent girls experience some kind of stigma in their environment when it comes to menstrual health care. So you can just imagine there is no information. Children do not have information about their body, about the changes that will take place. Child early and forced marriage is, of course, rampant across the country. It's estimated that 21% of girls are married below the age of 18 and an additional 33% before they're 15 years old. But again, unofficial figures are probably much higher. Similarly, we've also worked and done, focus group discussions and conversations with older adolescent girls, age 15 to 20 years. And a lot of the sample focus group discussions have shown that none of them had any awareness about marital rights or even knowledge related to family planning. This is older girls who are about to enter their, marital years. So just given all of this, I think that given that there's such a dearth of information around children's bodies, their development, given that adolescent and children are so vulnerable and susceptible to violence and abuse and gender discrimination, that's why we feel that LSBE really is the need of the hour. Through LSBE, we can provide children and adolescents with age-appropriate and accurate information. We can give them skills, like Saman said, communication skills, negotiation skills, decision-making skills, so that they're better prepared to deal with their health and to make better decisions as they grow older. So in our experience, especially through the work that we've seen in Sindh, even with the government, the work that we've done in government schools, LSBE has really empowered adolescents, especially adolescent girls, and they're then able to make informed decisions around issues such as age of marriage, marital rights, the ability to negotiate and communicate, safety from sexual harassment, and just generally having more awareness around their reproductive health and rights. You're muted, Nabila.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Sana, let me bring you in on the discussion. And what I would like you to explain a little to our audience here is that why can't we have life skill based education in all the provinces? And if we were to have it, what would it mean, and what kind of structural reforms will we require in our education system in order to have things that make sense for children can be incorporated?
Yeah, that is such an excellent question. And we have worked on advocacy with our friends at Aaahung in trying to get LSBE to become a part of the curriculum in all provinces. And it's been a different experience, I have to say, across the different provinces. So there's different problems everywhere. But I think one consistent thing is this fear of, oh my God, it's so controversial. And when you probe, it's a very curious thing, because as you go into the details, it's I mean, we work in it, so we know it's not controversial. It's really for the protection of our children. And I'm talking more specifically about the child sexual abuse prevention aspect of it. But even something jo mujhe lagta hai is a lot more sort of obvious, like kids are going through adolescence, they have to know what's happening with their bodies, right? That should not be a taboo. But we've been in meetings. I think I've been in a meeting with Aisha where we've had people point out, people from textbook boards point out, okay, oh, this is something so obscene. If you're talking about a girl getting her period, that we can't even have this discussion as adults in this room. So because there's men and women together. So it's this mindset issue, which we really need to work on, which is another point I wanted to bring up here is LSPE is one part, and one very, very critical part of the solution. But on its own, in isolation, it's not enough. We also have to work on changing the mindset, and long term this is an excellent solution, because you start from schools, and this is the same generation that's going to grow up and hopefully be more enlightened and empowered and aware about these things. But we also have to work on the adults through other means, through mass awareness programs, through television dramas, through our thought leaders discussing these issues and just talking about it more and more and more, to make people understand the harms of not educating ourselves about it. Then beyond that, to aapka question hai ki why, so fear is one reason why it hasn't been introduced, fear of any change and fear of what certain elements in the country will do or say. And when you get into a logical discussion with people in the secretariats of education and the even in the curriculum wings, etc., they'll say, "Acha, हमें तो मसला नहीं है, लेकिन लोगों को मसला होगा." And at every step you hear this, right? So it's interesting कि वो डर उनको किससे है, where is it really coming from? And another thing that we see a lot of is also in certain meetings in front of certain people, there will be agreement that, okay, yes, this is important for our children. This is, if you talk about just, like I said, child sexual abuse, it's such a growing problem. And now, thankfully, we're talking about it more openly in the media. And I think that has helped shift the conversation a little bit. If you look at, pre and post the Kasoor scandal and then Zainab, there has been, a palpable shift there. But there's still this reluctance in the government in terms of how they want to do it. And फिर उसके बाद जो उसके technical issues आते हैं, which I'm sure Aisha can actually talk about much better than me. But the way we teach it in our schools, we also teach Aaahung's books and a couple other add-on resources. We designate a separate period in our adopted government schools for LSBE, and that's the ideal, we think the best way to do that. But if you want to do that on a larger government scale, then that means कि आप एक नया subject introduce कर रहे हैं, तो उसके फिर subject specialists और उसके curriculum writers, and that in some ways is a much bigger challenge. So what has been tried in the past in Sindh and Balochistan, at least, and I think at some level in Punjab, is to integrate the themes of LSB into the existing curricula. So आपने थोड़ी सी चीज उर्दू में डाल दी, कुछ social studies में, कुछ science में, etc. There are, of course, drawbacks to that, because वो आपका थोड़ा बहुत dilute हो जाएगा. Teacher training में फिर you can argue that implementation is इसलिए नहीं सही हुई because the Islamia teachers didn't teach it right, or the Urdu teachers did a better job than XYZ. So there can be complications, even if I'm looking at it from a school level. But it's you have to start somewhere and you have to see what is possible. So that's one thing. And like agar aap cost implication ki baat kare, to it'll vary on how you decide to do it, whether you want to integrate it into existing subjects versus not. But I will say, like, I don't think it's a cost issue. I mean, even if you look at, I would say Punjab has been one of the most resistant to introduce this as a government. And agar aap Punjab curriculum or textbook board ka budget or expenditure dekh lein for the last, I think, 10 years, they have so much unspent budget every year, like between 3 billion to like over 1.5 billion. So it's not, and किताबें हर साल छपती तो हैं, तो उसके अंदर आपको कोई चीज introduce करनी है, if you have the political will to do it, you can. You're on mute again.
Yeah. Thank you. No, I just want to understand that, is that also a question of capacities for the people who are designing and writing these syllabus? Because I don't really see a reason for controversy or fear. We are talking about protection of our children. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. There was no resistance at the parents level, teachers, whoever we approach with this system of education, with life skills. The children are happy, more confident, the teachers are happier, the parents are happier. Where is the issue? Is still like a big enigma to me. It's still an issue which I can't resolve. So, Saman, is there been any resistance at the community level?
No, Nabila, not at all. Because when we met the parents, I can say this with surety that there wasn't a single parent who said that we don't want to teach our children life skills based education. Aap kya padhane aa rahe hain? There were parents who came to us. One mother started crying and she said कि शुक्र है किसी ने हमारे बच्चे के बारे में सोचा है, क्योंकि अब हालात जो हैं सोशल इश्यूज ऐसे हैं, ज़ैनब का केस हुआ, सब डरे हुए हैं. बीइंग अ पेरेंट मैं खुद बहुत खौफज़दा हूँ इस चीज से, एंड आई वांट टू टीच माय सन and all the other children on body protection and all these issues. So there wasn't any resistance. Or teachers bhi ye chahte hain. We have teachers on camera saying this. We have principals जो कह रहे हैं कि लाइफ स्किल्स बेस्ड एजुकेशन को करिकुलम का पार्ट होना चाहिए. और आपका सवाल का थोड़ा सा और मैं इस पे आंसर करूंगी कि आई थिंक it's not that we know that everybody agrees, जिसको पता है, but there are some preconceived notions associated with life skills based education. and the kind of social setup we have, जहाँ पे हम encourage नहीं करते कि कोई issue है तो उस पे बात करनी है, हम कहते हैं कि कोई issue है तो उसको दबा देना है, you know, if there's an issue of child abuse तो उसको हमने दबा देना है, if you know there's any other issue हमने बात नहीं करनी उस पे. तो वो कुछ लोग हैं, there are certain elements जो you know who don't encourage life skills based education, पर जो इसके beneficiaries हैं, जो students हैं, जो teachers हैं, जो schools हैं, they are ready for life skills based education.
100% our experience also.
Yeah, I just want to add over here, Nabila, in response to your question about, you know, how, you know, parents, teachers, students, everyone is receptive, right? But then there's this, it's this enigma and this mystery why it doesn't move forward. At least from the Sindh experience, and I'm sure Sana will agree with me, I think the problem is also the bureaucracy, right? It's a very bureaucratic process. Just having even
is
one
that,
paragraph.
Aisha or me? It's me.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just saying that जो bureaucracy hai within the department, I think that also becomes a challenge, right? Because there's so much red tape, there is so much, there are so many people that you have to convince to even do the smallest of thing, that at some point, if there is even a slight bit of resistance from any stage of the bureaucracy, the entire process gets halted. So I think at least with Sindh, we've struggled with that a lot. कि जो system है, वो system broken है. तो जब तक वो system सही नहीं होगा, तो आप जितनी भी कोशिश करें, वो एक बंदा या एक बंदी जो उसको block करना चाहे, they will be able to block it and you will go back to stage one. So that has really been a challenge in the context of Sindh, at least.
I would say that I think that's the difference between Punjab and Sindh also. I mean, I'm not saying that Punjab ki bureaucracy koi bahut amazing hai, but wahan pe I think it's more of a political will issue. Also.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was just
in Punjab,
about to
you
say.
mean?
Because in Punjab, I mean, the will is missing. हम cost की बात करें, हम model की बात करें, it's a very sustainable model, right? उसमें जो है trained the teachers can become master trainers, they can keep training more teachers. You don't need a lot of resources. You have the students, you have the school setup, you know, you have the syllabus. Like Sana said, print तो हो रही हैं किताबें, उनके you know उसमें include करना है. So उसमें it's a sustainable model basically. But the will is, you know, unfortunately that is missing.
Yeah, Aisha, if you remember, the Supreme Court verdict that came as response to the increasing population and some of the measures that they took, they specifically said to include life skill-based education in curriculum. So are we just going to ignore that because it's been, what, 3 years now for that verdict?
So I think initially, Nabila, I think there was a movement around it. We were also, Aaahung and Zindagi Trust, we were contacted by KP as well, and unki jo population welfare departments thi. So basically the population welfare departments were tasked with this sort of following up on it. And again, I think what happened, at least in Sindh, and even to some level in KP, was there was also a communication gap between population and education. So if your interdepartments are not communicating and there is no, you know, sort of synergy between them, that process just broke down because population was meant to ensure that it would happen. But technically, it's education that is responsible for the integration of LSBE. And just trying to get the two to work together, there was a complete breakdown in KP, and we saw this in Sindh as well. So I think that as a country, I think we're very good at putting, you know, there are a lot of policies, there are a lot of bills that come out, but I think the actual problem is the implementation, as you know. So we've tried to use the Supreme Court verdict as a, you know, as a means to try and pressurize the education departments to do it. But again, it's this blame game ke, but humne to nahi karna, wo to population ne karna, and population is saying, but hame to iska mandate mila hai, but ye to education ka hai. So there's just, even between the departments, there's a lot of issues that.
तो खेल रहे हैं, बॉल खेल रहे हैं, इधर से उधर,
बिल्कुल।
उधर से उधर, and that's what they're good at. इनके पास आप
Yeah.
जाओ, वो कहते हैं ये
Reflection.
तो हमारा काम ही नहीं है, ये तो उन्होंने
बिल्कुल।
काम करना है। उनका चले जी आप बता दें, आप काम कर लें। उनका नहीं नहीं, ये तो हमें कहा ही नहीं गया, चाहे काम तो
बिल्कुल
शायद हमारा ही है, लेकिन क्योंकि हमें कहा नहीं गया इसलिए हम नहीं
बिल्कुल।
कहेंगे।
या
तो बेसिकली जो ना करना हो तो फिर आप कुछ भी कह सकते हैं। तो सना ये बताएं कि इनसे करवाने का क्या तरीका है, क्योंकि अभी मैं समन को दोबारा माइक दूंगी, एंड आई एम श्योर समन हमें स्टोरीज भी सुना सकती हैं कि जिन बच्चों को ये अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली कि उन्होंने थोड़े थोड़े अरसे, और ये एक बात मैं बताती चलूं कि नूर फाउंडेशन का जो प्रोजेक्ट था, जिसको 1 साल अभी ट्रेनिंग देना था बच्चों को, वो सिर्फ कोविड की सिचुएशन की वजह से सिर्फ 4 महीने की ट्रेनिंग जो है वो हो सकी है। और उस 4 महीनों में भी अगर आप स्टेटिस्टिक्स देखें तो फर्क जो है वो इट्स माइंड बॉगलिंग, इट्स लाइक क्रेजी कि आप थोड़ी सी बात करें तो उनकी जिंदगी की क्वालिटी में कितना फर्क पड़ जाता है। और हम अभी इसके साथ खेल ही रहे हैं, इन कॉन्सेप्ट्स के साथ, अपने बच्चों की जिंदगी के साथ खेल ही रहे हैं। सना, व्हाट विल इट टेक? पंजाब गवर्नमेंट को ध्यान में रखें, वी आर टारगेटिंग पंजाब गवर्नमेंट एट द मोमेंट।
It's such a good question, like, and 2 years ago, I was so much more hopeful because we met the education minister in Punjab and he was completely on board and he got it, like he actually got the issue and he talked about how he knew people who had suffered child abuse and, ye kitna important hai. But wo phir unki bureaucracy mein bhi, bahut resistance thi and it didn't get ahead. I think one thing I would say is it should be tackled head on. So एक चीज जो हमने देखी है कि life skills is a broad term, right? We are उसके अंदर कुछ soft skills भी होती हैं, communication skills, and all of those are very very important in terms of a child being able to protect themselves. But what you'll see is you know that can be used to sort of ignore or dismiss the more controversial, so to speak, or the really more critical child protection aspects of it. लेकिन वो ही सबसे ज्यादा important हैं. तो अगर child sexual abuse के रोज एक से एक भयानक केसेस आ रहे हैं, आप उनकी बात करें, आप उसके साथ डायरेक्टली इसको कनेक्ट करें. Don't try to make it sound, don't try to dilute it, I would say. I think that is the way to go. That I mean, I hope that can make a difference. But uske alawa, we've tried so much. I think you just keep trying, even with sins. It was easier than, it has been easier than it was with Punjab, but it's also not a straightforward process. And it did, when the Zainab case happened, we did this big press conference, we got celebrities involved. So you have to sort of, capture like the moments which present themselves for making that advocacy push and make the most of them. So, I think you also just keep trying. I think I lost you guys.
Nabila, are you there? Okay, you're back on, Nabila.
Right. I'm just trying to find a better spot for the internet. We are IT challenged, and yeah, I think I have found a better spot. Okay, so thank you for that. And that just reminds me, we've been at it for so long, Aisha. Remember, I think Punjab and Sindh and KP and Balochistan, we've been asking for this, trying to convince the governments it is essential, it is important, it is for the safety of the children. Then Zainab case happens, and for a moment there is sort of whole attention towards the issue, and the government is in a rush to do something. Let's just fix it now. and then nothing gets fixed, because there is no quick fix for these issues.
Yeah.
This needs very serious thinking, very sincere and committed people who can actually make a difference to this. Aisha, what worked in Sindh? Finally,
Yeah.
what worked?
I think, Nabila, so because Aaahung, we're a fairly small organization and we're based in Karachi. So I think our first point of contact over the years was Sindh. So, leading up to the Zainab case, we had been working with the Sindh Education Department, for maybe 10 years before that. And again, it was slow baby steps. So 2009 and 10 में एक छोटा सा उनके साथ पायलट किया था जहां हमने 4 डिस्ट्रिक्ट लिए थे, और अपना जो करिकुलम था we ran it over there. उसकी हमने evaluation की थी, the results that came. We then started going to all the secretaries, and again there's a lot of at least in Sindh, in these departments there's a lot of turnover, so that's another challenge, because आप एक secretary के साथ महीने लगा के you develop a rapport and within a day the person is transferred. So leading up to the Zainab incident, we had spent a lot of time, a lot of resources working with the department, sensitizing not just the top layer of bureaucrats, but also that middle layer that tends to stay consistent. So I think that, and like Sana said, I think the political will is there more so in Sindh, perhaps in the other provinces. And I think that the political leadership in Sindh is a lot more open to it, and they actually want it. So if you meet like the Minister of Health and Population, or if you meet even the Chief Minister, they want it to happen. So with the political will being there, with the many years of sensitization and going and sitting in the department and just trying to form a rapport with them, I think when the Zainab incident happened, that the background work had been done. So when the political leadership said कि अब हमें कल ही कुछ करना है, because so much background work had been done, because Aaahung had already developed so much of the content, because we had already had that content, vetted by a technical committee and all of that, that we were actually able to say that, okay, here's the content, let's now scale it up. So I think it was the fact that the stage was somewhat set in Sindh. We had been engaging with them for a very long time. The content was there. The entire modality was there. So when the Zainab rape case happened, and when the political leadership said that we need this to roll out immediately, that initial rollout took place. And then the momentum was there for 6 months to a year. But again, then the momentum started dying down. So that's how Sindh was somewhat different from the other provinces, I feel, at least in our experience.
Yeah. Okay, Saman, let me get back to you and just tell me if you can share some of the comments of the children. And I believe you also have a video made, the testimonial. If you can announce it to our viewers, how they can access it, and give us some glimpses of what is it that the students are saying who benefited from this project.
Okay, Bilkul Nabila, we recorded these videos in schools, these testimonials from the students, even the teachers and parents, and we have them on camera saying how they all want LSBE in both public and private schools. और students का बहुत interesting हमें feedback आया, because it wasn't just one topic but the whole life skills based education curriculum जिसमें उन्होंने बात की, ranging from how it improved their confidence to on body protection, good and bad touch के बारे में बहुत से बच्चों ने बात की. They said before studying this curriculum they didn't know the difference between good and bad touch. उनको नहीं पता चलता था कि कोई उनको टच कर रहा है तो whether it's a bad touch or a good touch. और ये कोर्स पढ़ने के बाद बहुत से बच्चों को पता चला. एक बच्चे ने ये तक कहा कि हमारे सीनियर्स हमें जब आके मिलते थे स्कूल में, गले मिलते थे और इस तरह मिलते थे, तो मुझे कभी पता नहीं चला कि कुछ गलत हो रहा है या ये कुछ ठीक नहीं है. लेकिन जब मैंने ये करिकुलम पढ़ा और टीचर्स ने बताया तो मुझे पता चला कि मुझे इनसे डिस्टेंस मेंटेन करना है, फिजिकल डिस्टेंस. और मतलब इस तरह की बहुत सी एग्जाम्पल्स थी. जब हम गए फील्ड में और हमने बच्चों के इंटरव्यूज लिए तो उसी दौरान करीब में एक वाकया हुआ था जहाँ पे एक बच्चे को कुछ फ्रेंड्स उसके ले गए और उसको उन्होंने ड्रग किया एंड दे अब्यूज्ड हिम। तो उस बच्चे का ये कहना था कि अगर जिस बच्चे के साथ ये हादसा हुआ, अगर उसने पढ़ा होता, अगर उसने ड्रग अब्यूज के बारे में पढ़ा होता जो कि लाइफ स्किल्स बेस्ड करिकुलम का पार्ट है, अगर उसने पीयर प्रेशर के बारे में पढ़ा होता जो कि देन अगेन हम बताते हैं बच्चों को कि पीयर प्रेशर क्या होता है, फ्रेंड्स का इन्फ्लुएंस अच्छा भी हो सकता है, बुरा भी हो सकता है, और मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंटली अगर उसने बॉडी प्रोटेक्शन के बारे में पढ़ा होता तो शायद वो बच सकता इस तरह का जो इंसिडेंट हुआ अनफॉर्चुनेट उसके साथ। बहुत सी बच्चियों ने कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग की बात की, डिसीजन मेकिंग की बात की, कम्युनिकेशन की बात की, बहुत सी मदर्स ने कम्युनिकेशन की बात की जब हमने उनसे फीडबैक लिया, क्योंकि जनरली हमारी सोसाइटी में एक गैप है पेरेंट्स और टीचर्स के बीच में, माँ बाप और बच्चों के बीच में, हम उसको लिहाज कहते हैं बट एट टाइम्स वो लिहाज नहीं होता, वो हेजिटेंस होती है, वो डर होता है, वो झिझक होती है, बहुत सी चीजें हम डिस्कस नहीं कर पाते अपने पेरेंट्स से, बच्चे जो हैं। हालांकि अगर खुदा ना खास्ता बच्चे को कोई प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, कोई इशू आ रहा है, तो पेरेंट्स शुड बी द फर्स्ट वंस जिनके पास बच्चा जाए वो इशू लेके। और प्यूबर्टी में होने वाले जो चेंजेस होते हैं, इट्स अ वेरी कंफ्यूजिंग टाइम फॉर एडोलेसेंट्स। फिजिकल चेंजेस हो रहे होते हैं, बॉडी में चेंजेस हो रहे होते हैं, एंड देयर इज नोबडी टू गिव यू द करेक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन। इंफॉर्मेशन का दौर है ये, दे वुड गेट इंफॉर्मेशन फ्रॉम द इंटरनेट, फ्रॉम देयर फ्रेंड्स, फ्रॉम देयर कजन्स, पर करेक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन और एज अप्रोप्रिएट इंफॉर्मेशन क्या उनको मिल रही है या नहीं। तो जब हमने पेरेंट्स से बात की तो अ लॉट ऑफ मदर्स टोल्ड अस कि पहले बच्चियां बात नहीं करती थी, दे वर हेजिटेंट, उनको मूड स्विंग्स होते थे, हमें पता नहीं चलता था। तो अब उन्होंने हमसे बात करनी शुरू की है, उनके जो भी उनके मसाइल हैं वो हमसे शेयर करती हैं। एंड इंटरेस्टिंगली देयर वाज आल्सो एन इंसिडेंट जहाँ पे एक स्टूडेंट जो एलएसबी पढ़ रही थी, शी टुक अ स्टैंड फॉर हर कजन जो एलएसबी नहीं पढ़ रही थी, और उसको कुछ लड़के तंग कर रहे थे स्कूल में। सो जो एलएसबी पढ़ रही थी, शी सेड शी हैड the confidence to share it with her father. उसने अपने फादर से बात की, जो बच्ची बेचारी जिसको तंग कर रहे थे उसने इतनी जुर्रत नहीं थी कि वो अपने फादर से बात करे, हिम्मत नहीं थी। और फिर उसके फादर गए कजन के और उन्होंने जाके स्कूल में बात की तो इशू रिजॉल्व हुआ और उनको बच्चों को मना किया लड़कों को तंग करने से, और डांट पड़ी उनको। तो ये बहुत से छोटी छोटी स्टोरीज हैं, बट ये जिंदगियां हैं, देर नॉट जस्ट स्टोरीज, देर एडोलेसेंस की जब हम बात करते हैं, और ये देर नॉट जस्ट एक जिंदगी नहीं है, इनसे जुड़ी कल को फैमिलीज होंगी। और किस तरह के, लाइक आई सेड अर्लियर, कि जिस तरह फीलिंग्स इमोशंस को दबा रहे हैं, एंगर को दबा रहे हैं, खुदा ना खास्ता कोई अब्यूज हो रहा है उसको दबा रहे हैं, तो किस तरह की एक सोसाइटी हम बना रहे हैं जहाँ पे बच्चे मतलब अपने फीलिंग्स को, इमोशंस को, इश्यूज को सप्रेस करके जिंदगी गुजार रहे हैं। और हम यही सिखा रहे हैं कि सहते जाओ बस, और फिर आगे जाके हमें पता है कि सोसाइटी में किस तरह के इश्यूज हो रहे हैं।
समन, हमारे यहाँ जो सबसे बड़ा मसला है वो ये होता जा रहा है, आयशा एंड सना, कट इन एनी टाइम यू फील लाइक इट, कि बच्चों को पता ही नहीं है कि क्या सही है क्या गलत है, उनकी इख्तियारात क्या होने चाहिए, उनके राइट्स क्या होने चाहिए, और कहाँ पे जो है दूसरे की हदूद जो है वो खत्म होती है और इनकी शुरू होती है, जिन पे इनका पूरा इख्तियार होना चाहिए। जब उनको पता ही नहीं है तो वो एक्सरसाइज क्या करेंगे, उसको इम्प्लीमेंट क्या करेंगे या करवाएंगे। और जब यही बच्चे बड़े होते हैं और पावरफुल हो जाते हैं और कुछ इनको इख्तियार मिल जाता है, तो वो तमीज जो कि बचपन में आनी चाहिए, रिश्तों की तमीज, बात की तमीज, कम्युनिकेशन, वो उससे आरी ही, उसके बगैर ही ये जवान हो जाते हैं। और उसके बाद जो है वो उस वक्त फिर आप कहते हैं कि देखें जी हमारी कौम कैसी है। तो आपकी कौम कैसी होगी जब आप उनको जो बेसिक एजुकेशन हैं उससे महरूम रखेंगे, तो कैसी होगी। आयशा, क्या आपने अब ये कुछ अरसा तो हो गया सिंध में इम्प्लीमेंट होते हुए, कुछ आपको फर्क पता चला कि ये जो जिन लोगों ने लाइफ स्किल बेस्ड एजुकेशन ली हासिल की और वो लोग जो बगैर इसके जवान हुए या प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में आए, दोनों में मार्क डिफरेंस क्या आपको नजर आता है?
So, good question, Nabila. I think that there is a very big mark difference. So, क्योंकि हम सिंध में बहुत सालों से काम कर रहे हैं, तो बहुत सारे स्कूलों में जिनके साथ हमने काम किया था 10-15 साल पहले, उनकी जो लड़कियां हैं, especially when you talk about rural areas like Khairpur and other rural districts of Sindh, a lot of times the girls who went through life skills based education, oftentimes they will come back to their schools and they will want to teach there. And वहाँ पे उनके साथ दोबारा हमारी उनके साथ interaction होती है. And a lot of times what we've heard from them is that, again, that confidence, that ability to say no, that ability to be able to take decisions for yourself. So for a lot of these girls, they say that had they not been through life skills based education, class 8 या 9 के बाद, they would have dropped out of school. They would have been married off. But because they had been through this education, because they had the support of their teachers, the school management, they were able to advocate कि हमें पढ़ने दें. They went on to higher education. Now they're coming back and teaching in those schools. A lot of them are actually teaching life skills based education. So you see this really nice cycle that is being completed. Even with boys, the boys who have come back and who we've interacted with, you've been able to see even just their ideas around gender, right? आप जब छोटी age में उनके साथ, when you start talking about gender, when you start breaking it down, you see that difference in them as they grow older. So the way that, they may talk about how they treat their wives, their daughters. So you see that difference. And often, I think the challenge of life skill-based education is that a lot of times we want quantifiable numbers, right? But life skills based education is often, it's this qualitative data that comes in, it's these case studies that come in. It's hard to measure it in a way that it's concrete. But when you go back and when you speak to those students, when you speak to their families, when you speak to the teachers, you get very rich data about how their day-to-day lives are impacted by it, similar to what Saman was sharing. So we've really seen that in all the schools that we worked in, with the teachers that we work with, even the parents we interact with. It's, you see that change in their approach, in the way that they think, in the way that they treat each other, their families. So it's very much there.
I'd like to add to this an interesting
Yes,
example from our school. So a couple of years ago, we were doing a shoot at one of our schools where we were following one student a day in her life. And one of the things in her day was going to an LSBE class. So there was this big crew, like 5-6 ladke the sare usme. And incidentally that day, the topic was gender and sex. And, they were learning about gender roles. And, this crew of like adult males, वो लोग एक सकते में, like, they had never considered these things before, and वो इतने गौर से सुन रहे थे, and सर हिला रहे थे, and it was the first time that they had engaged with these sorts of ideas, even कि अच्छा अगर एक लड़की घर जाती है तो वो क्यों अपने भाई को पानी का ग्लास निकाल के दे, वो खुद क्यों नहीं उठा सकता. अगर even things about nutritional equality, right, कि अगर बिरयानी बनी है तो why am I getting the boti in the biryani and not my sister? And I think that really demonstrated it for me, because there were these adult men who उनको कभी ये किसी ने नहीं बताया था. These were all educated people, कोई director था, कोई क्या था, all of that. So that was very interesting. उसके अलावा जो हमने अपने schools में देखा है, similar to what Aisha shared, a lot of those students will come back to our schools and become teachers. A lot of them will pursue non-traditional careers, like in football or in the arts or different. So they get that confidence. And many times they're the first in their family to be pursuing any career. तो वो एक बहुत अमेजिंग चीज होती है. एक और चीज that I wanted to add, जो नबीला आप, I think you were touching upon it, कि हम जब बच्चों को नहीं पढ़ाते, एजुकेशन नहीं उन्हें मिलती, तो how will they have this when they're growing up? So in terms of what we teach in LSBE locally, I think one thing we also need to focus on, because we know कि the vast majority, I think 80 to 90% cases mein, the perpetrator of child sexual abuse or child abuse is someone known to the family. कोई जानने वाला ही होता है, right? कोई रिश्तेदार होता है, कोई टीचर होता है, कोई दुकान, like someone जिससे बहुत अच्छी तरह वाकिफ होती है family. Now, given that we know that, we should realize that ये जो लोग आपकी पर्सनल स्पेस, आपकी बॉडी ऑटोनॉमी को वायलेट करें, वो भी इसी माशरे से हैं, वो कोई एलियंस नहीं है, वो कहीं और से नहीं आए. तो हमें बच्चों को ये, when we're talking about child protection from abuse, yes, we should protect them from getting abused, but we also need to protect them from becoming abusers. And वो, that education needs to be a part of LSBE always. Consent कह लें आप उसे, जो भी body autonomy, जिस तरह भी आप उसे कराएं, but वो I think सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, instead of like just this, कि oh, it is this alien, the stranger, उससे बच के रहें. It's also because वही बच्चे बड़े होके आपकी majority population बन रहे हैं, जो violent और unsafe behaviors practice कर रहे हैं.
I would like to add here कि सना ने बहुत valid point raise किया बिल्कुल, and I think when we teach LSB तो हम उसमें जब human rights का component लेते हैं, हम gender का component लेते हैं, things as simple as peer pressure, उसमें हम basically यही, and even values की जब हम बात करते हैं, we're talking about diversity, we're talking about inclusion, तो हम बच्चों को बहुत छोटी age से यही सिखाना चाह रहे हैं, acceptance and कि आप the whole point is कि आप किस तरह एक ऐसे इंसान बन सकते हो कि आप महफूज रहो, लेकिन आपसे भी सब महफूज रहें.
ठीक है, thank you Saman. I think we have come towards the end of our first episode. We also wanted to touch upon the issue of out of school children, कि अगर LSB schools में आ जाती है तो जो बच्चे स्कूल में पढ़ रहे हैं उनको तो मिल जाएगी एजुकेशन, जो बच्चे स्कूल में नहीं हैं उन तक कैसे पहुंचा जा सकता है. But I believe we can handle this in some other episode, because that in itself is another whole topic. इतना जो कुछ ये मुझे पता है कि बहुत सारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स चल रहे हैं जो आउट ऑफ स्कूल बच्चों के लिए काफी सक्सेसफुल अप्रूव हो रहे हैं. इस पे भी बात करेंगे, मगर इसके साथ ही अगर आप इजाजत दें तो हम अपना आज का एपिसोड क्लोज करते हैं. आयशा आपका बहुत शुक्रिया, सना आपका बहुत शुक्रिया, और समन आपका भी बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. थैंक यू फॉर, लेट्स प्रॉमिस ईच अदर दैट जब तक गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पंजाब गिवन नहीं करती, इंक्लूड नहीं करती लाइफ स्किल बेस्ड एजुकेशन करिकुलम में, we will work together and we'll make them do it.